Hello there, BookTube. My name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling. I've got no rhythm, and today I'm going to do a book review of a 2024 novel that has been widely read, widely lauded, and it was only a matter of time until I got round to reading it. I'm talking, of course, about James by Percival Everett. This is part of my, it was already, even before everyone started raving about this book, this was on my list as I'm in the middle of a ongoing reading project to read Percival Everett. I had never read him before. I encountered The Trees, which was shortlisted for the book a few years ago, but that was the first of his books that I read, and it's a gut punch, a tremendous piece of work. I love The Trees. It may still be my favorite of his books that I've read. Since then, I've read, I think, three others: Dr. No, Virgil Russell by Percival Everett, and Erasure. And yes, so James maybe is my fifth Percival Everett, and I have not Sidney Poitier lined up also, and I'll probably read Telephone and maybe one or two others, because I'm just enjoying him, and I should have known about him far sooner than I did. So let's talk a little bit about James. As everyone knows, this is a retelling in some ways, or reimagining of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Huckleberry Finn, by Mark Twain, one of the great American novels, maybe even the great American novel. Huckleberry Finn, the character that we met in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, also shows up as in Tom Sawyer Abroad and Tom Sawyer Detective. This was Twain, and you know, these I guess are considered children's stories these days, even though Tom Sawyer is a perfectly serviceable scamp of a character. But The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn has a slightly different tone to it. I read this book years ago, 1994. My copy says in it there. And later on, in about 96, 97, after I came to Israel, my first job here was the only job I've ever had in publishing. I worked for an educational publisher based in Israel that was publishing books to teach kids English. School kids. So Israel was a big market, but also they published a lot of books in Greece and in Spain. And one of the jobs that I had there was editing a non-English reader's version of Huckleberry Finn. There's no copyright. I could take the text of the book and cut it down to leave out any words that were inappropriate, and you know, leave out any vocabulary which was beyond whatever it was I'm writing for 6th or 7th graders, whatever, older probably, I don't know, whatever it was. And so I actually became fairly familiar with this. You know, I apologize if anyone finds the idea that I have edited a work of Mark Twain to make it palatable and accessible to younger readers, but that's what I did. It was a paid job, and they wouldn't let me put my name on it. So the book, which may still be out there, and if you can look for The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, published by Burlington Books, that was the name of the publisher, and you will see, if you find a version out there, it will say adapted by, and the name is Colin Barling, because the publisher would not let us use our real names because he didn't want anyone to get any credit. I was tasked with coming out with a list of fake names that we could use. We did a whole series of these young readers, and I snuck in Colin Barling because Colin is my middle name and Barling was my mother's maiden name. And so a lot of the others were just generic made-up names of people who don't exist. And the books that I actually worked on were adapted by Colin Barling, because that's me. Anyway, that's just a story about me and my relationship with Huckleberry Finn. So I'm fairly familiar with the text, but before I read James, I went back to Wikipedia and just sort of tried to remember what the beats were within the story and what the nature of the relationship between Huck and Jim were. Because if you are familiar with Huckleberry Finn, you know that Jim, or James as he prefers to be known, is not the main character. He's a peripheral character, but the relationship between Huck and Jim in Huckleberry Finn is sort of important to Huck growing up, and you know, along this way he starts to realize that people are people, so why should it be that you and I should get on so awfully? But people are people regardless of their color, regardless of what the social mores are telling you about you as a young white boy's relationship to a black slave. You know, so he's kind of James is kind of key to Huckleberry Finn, but this takes it in a whole different story, whole different direction. So here James is the focus. James is the first person narrator of James, and right from the off we get this clue that everything we've seen, the way that the slaves talk in Mark Twain's vernacular, and the way that Huck talks, but the way that he expects slaves to talk, actually that's something they put on for their masters. And when they're alone amongst themselves, they talk like normal. Oh, sorry, not normal. They talk like the way everyone else talks. But when they get in front of their white masters and owners, they have this sort of deferential patois, which is designed to make sure they never appear smarter than a white person, or they never know an answer that a white person, or they never come out with an idea that a white person hasn't had. And it's a whole defense mechanism, which I guess if you've read something like Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, has parallels today in the way that black parents teach their black children how to behave when confronted by authority figures. So that, you know, Percival Everett can't help himself. The parody is strong, just like it was in The Trees. Even though this is a historical novel, the modern world is being poked at and saying, maybe you don't realize it, but there's something going on here. So that's early on, we get that. There are other things that the book introduces about the nature of the relationship between Huck and James, which I won't talk about here, but I found them wholly consistent and believable. And I think, maybe this is a grandiose claim, I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn again without considering James. I think that's Everett's great achievement. I don't think this exists as I mean in an academic sense. Of course you can read this and never think about this, but I'm saying if you're going to be teaching this as a great American novel, I don't think you can ever again ignore the suggestions and the ideas that Percival Everett brings forward in James. But now I'm going to say something, get controversial. And I thought about this, not a lot, because I don't do a lot of thinking about these things, but this is what I think. So I love this. It's not clear. Everyone loves it. You should love it. It might win the Booker Prize. I don't know if it will. I haven't read Hisham Attar's book. I think, because I think there are some flaws here, I haven't read that one yet, but I think that might take it. And Percival Everett will have, his day will come again, because this is, you know, this is not the peak of a long career. This is Percival Everett flexing his muscles. But this is my thing. This is the 5th Percival Everett book that I've read, and I'm going to go on record and say, I don't think he knows how to do endings. Now, this may sound controversial. I know we're not supposed to slag on Percival Everett, and I don't find that necessarily negative. I think it's an outstanding novel. I recommend you read it. I think he might have a problem with endings. I think it was true of The Trees. I think it's true of Erasure. And if you've seen the movie version of Erasure, they sort of amp it even up. So they do the whole sort of Scooby-Doo Wayne's World ending with multiple different endings. I mean, that's how much of, maybe that has a problem writing endings, but he's just not that interested in the endings. And I think that's okay. So even though this may be sacrilegious to say about this great novelist that he doesn't know how to finish a book, I don't have a problem with that. Often I don't remember the end of a book, unless it's something where the end of a book is a punchline, like Portnoy's Complaint, or the whodunit, the reveal, like the murder of Roger Ackroyd. Actually, the ending is kind of, you know, that's the point you're least interested, you're least invested in, because everything is, all the tension is up to there, and then the ending is the ending, and then you moved on and read something else. The ending here, I don't think it's too outrageous to say. It goes completely Django Unchained. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I love Django Unchained, maybe even more than I love Inglourious Bastards. I just read, and I haven't reviewed it because I just read the script of Reservoir Dogs, which I saw the movie in the cinema more than 30 years ago, but I picked up the script for £2 in a second-hand bookshop. I'll be like, and so I love what Tarantino's doing. I kind of have this thing in my head that one day I'm going to bump into him on the streets of Tel Aviv, and so I should always carry one of his books with me so I can get him to sign it. If you don't know, Tarantino is married to an Israeli, and I believe spends at least some of his time in living in Tel Aviv. But say the end of this book, after, you know, for the first 2/3, it sticks fairly closely to the actual narrative of the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, except we see it from James' point of view. So when they're separated, we see what happened to James, whereas in this book we follow Huck until he bumps back into James. But here we get it. And then in the last third, it goes completely off-piste, completely bonkers, with this fabulously satisfying revenge ending, which is kind of lifted from Django Unchained. You know, the Django's quest to free Brunhilde, which drives the whole plot there and takes them out to Candyland and the whole thing, and then the ending where he's captured and recaptured and Norma's tortured, Norma thing, and then the big explosion. I don't want to spoil Django Unchained, it's an amazing movie. But there's no doubt, no doubt in my mind, Percival Everett's seen Django Unchained, and he sort of said, yeah, well, okay, I've got to finish the book off. Let's do this. And I don't care. I'm here for it. I thought it was a great book. That's my thesis. I'd love to hear people. I don't think that in any way should influence your decision to read this book, because it's terrific. Everett is doing amazing, interesting work here. I'm here for all of it. But I'd love to hear what you make of the ending. But still, fantastic book. James by Percival Everett. Take care. God bless. Bye.